Welcome to the Home Show with Adam Black and Rich Price. My name is Rich Price. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams here in the Jackson, Mississippi area. And this is Adam Black, lender, loan originator, loan officer extraordinaire with First Commercial Bank here in Jackson. And we're excited to get back with you with our second episode. And we're adjusting our format from our first episode just a little bit. We're going to bring you the good content up front, and then we'll give you a quick market recap on the back end. But today we want to address the idea of what buyers need to do right now as we're looking at the spring season coming up. And so, Adam, good to see you today. I'm excited to jump into the topic today.
Good to see you too, buddy. I'm excited about this. Spring has sprung. So, yeah, this is a good topic.
It is. And we have just a couple of weeks left in kind of a sweet spot that I see as a realtor for buyers before we get into March is when things really start picking up for us. We'll see a lot more new listings coming on the market, but we'll also see people starting to get antsy looking at end of school year moves. So they're hitting the market, getting ready to buy. And so the next couple of weeks is kind of a sweet spot for people who have been sitting on the fence. They're waffling a little bit. They're wondering if it's the right time to time the market. And I'm telling you now, you're not going to wait for better rates because we're going to be where they are. We'll talk about that a little bit, but today is the day to get into action. This isn't everybody needs to go try and buy a house, but it's if you've been sitting on the fence, it's time to get into action. We'll talk a little bit about how to do that today. So the first thing that we really want to talk about is deciding to get into the market. What does that look like? Adam, what are you seeing with folks that are applying for mortgages? What are you seeing in terms of what they need to do right now?
Yeah, so you're right. It's busy. We are actually seeing application numbers right now that we normally see in March. As a matter of fact, a few weeks ago, we had in our area, we had an ice storm and everything locked up. And that weekend was just insane. I don't know if it was people sitting at home and just really starting to think about buying a home or whatever, but it just took off. We took 11 applications over one weekend, and we want 10 applications a week, and we had those by the time we walked in Monday morning. So it went really crazy. We're seeing a lot of people come back into the market that were, maybe priced out because of interest rates. We have really done well on rates. We're about a point to a point and a half lower than where we were in October. And that's really spurred a lot of activity. And it's done exactly what we told everybody it was going to do, is that, hey, don't wait. If you want in this market, you need to do this now, because when rates come back down, everybody's going to run back in. And I think I saw a statistic the other day where every 1% drop in interest rate brings another 5 million buyers back into the market.
That is a lot of people. So that's kind of the big principle that we want to talk about to start off this conversation is if you've been sitting on the fence, it's time to get in now because you need to beat the rush. With interest rates coming down, based on my rough numbers the other day, I was looking. So if you were going to buy a $350,000 house at 8%, if you want your mortgage payment to be around $2,400 a month, including taxes and interest, at 8%, you'd have been able to get about a $350,000 house. And to keep your budget roughly the same, right now with interest rate point and a half lower, you're looking at another roughly $50,000 total buying power, which is a ton. And as soon as people start realizing that, as we get into spring, they've got a lot more buying power. They can get a lot nicer house. Not a lot nicer, but you're looking at basically a whole step up in house between $350 and $400K. You need to beat the rush right now. You need to get in before the competition does, because what happens is we get more buyers in the market, that 5 million nationally. So we'll see a pretty good influx here in our area. That creates upward pressure on prices. So the more buyers that enter the market, the more prices are going to go up. So if you want to have any kind of competitive advantage from a timing standpoint, it's now, because you're going to get the best price for the houses that are on the market right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And obviously you see this more than I do, but even on my end, I'm already seeing multiple offer situations. I'm seeing bring your final and best. Haven't seen any over contract yet, but it's soon.
It's coming.
For sure. Yeah, it's coming. So, I think everybody needs to be ready. And you're right. That's actually that exact scenario you were talking about. I spoke to one of my clients the other day that has been in my pipeline for a little over a year, and just touching her every month or so. And we talked, and she's like, I just feel like the houses I was looking at in my price range just didn't fit what I wanted. And I said, well, rates have come down. Let's look and see. And it bought her another $60,000. It put her in a different scale house, and she's under contract. So yes, It is happening every day right now.
Yep. Yeah. And so, that's a big takeaway. So if you got quoted on what you could afford last year at a different interest rate, you need to have a conversation with whatever your lender you're working with, which should be Adam, and the realtor should be me. But you need to revisit that conversation because your buying power has probably changed, and right now is the time to capitalize on that. So the second thing we want to talk about is what we call the 85% rule. This is something I've started talking a lot with the buyers that I work with. There are no perfect houses, and even brand new houses that people have custom built, they live in it for 6 months and they're like, don't like that decision I made. I don't like this finish. It's already looking dated. There's always something that's going to be right with the house. And so what I encourage folks to do is start looking at what is checking like 8 to 9 boxes out of the 10 really important boxes. If we can, and even 70%, if we get 70% of the way there, I like 85% the best, but if we start getting above 70%, now we're starting to talk really seriously about a house that qualifies. Adam, how many times have you seen a person who they really liked the house, but it wasn't the perfect house, and so they let it get away, and then they got stuck in the market because they couldn't find anything they liked?
All the time, especially the last couple of years. It's just, and I try to, obviously I'm not a realtor, but I do try to help you guys with that and try to reinforce that when I'm talking to people is just going, hey, you're not going to find the perfect home. You're just not, but you've got to get out from under renting. So let's get you in something that's gaining equity and you're building wealth over time. And second, third house, you're going to get better and better. You're getting more and more of what you want every time you move up. So, I totally agree. I've seen it a lot.
Yeah. This is real life is not HGTV. Home ownership, it's a long range plan. Sure, there's always going to be something to improve in a house, but you got to be thinking long term. You're most likely, especially if you're a younger, newer buyer, you're not going to get your forever home. It's not going to be your dream home, the very first one. So have patience with the process, but you got to trust that home ownership is going to build you wealth over the long term. And, when you're thinking 85% of the way there, that's really serious conversation time about writing a contract on a house. So the other thing that we want to talk about real quickly is concessions from sellers. In particular, you can still get good concessions from some sellers, especially if there's a house that's been on the market for a little bit of time. You can get price reduction. You can get concessions for repairs or interest rate buy downs or closing costs that, even a year ago when we were still, rates had started coming up, you still weren't hearing people talk about sellers paying closing costs, but that's way more common now. So, one of the biggest places, Adam, I think you've seen this a lot with new construction, is where we're seeing the best concessions. Builders they're sitting on their inventory. They do not want to sit on it, so they are offering incredible incentives. So first time home buyers who think new construction may be out of reach for me, I think new construction is probably a really, really good place to look, because you can get some of the best concessions on the market today in new construction. What are your thoughts?
I absolutely agree. We're doing a lot of new construction right now, which our area we generally do. But man, some of the concessions I'm seeing right now are crazy. And it's, and I had this discussion today. A gentleman I was talking to, he was just really dead set on negotiating. He was just that guy. I think he lived for the negotiation, and he was like, well, they're offering $10,000 in concession, but I think I just want to, come down on the price $10,000. I was like, hey, let's do the math here. Okay.
Yeah.
$10,000 is going to save you about $65 a month. And his eyes lit up. He's like, no, there's no way that's right. And I said, oh, I promise you, it is correct. I do this enough. And, and I had to show it to him, and then I said, okay, well, let's take that same $10,000. Let's do a 2-1 temporary buy down where year one, we're going to be 2% lower. Year two, we're going to be 1% lower. And then we go back to that market rate and we take the strategy of hopefully, all the indicators are that rates will reside over the next 24 months before you ever get to that market rate, and we'll refinance you to something that's more manageable. But during that time, you've got a really low interest rate and you're saving a lot of money. Not to mention that if we refinance you within that 24 months, anything left that we set over there into that escrow bucket to pay that 2-1 buy down is going toward the principal reduction of the home when you refinance. So you, in theory, really bought the house cheaper at that point. You got a discount after you bought it. So when you really spell it out for people that understand numbers and the cost of money over time, they go, okay, now I get this. So yeah, it's a great time to ask to either find homes that are offering concessions or even asking for them. I mean, I'm seeing most of the contracts I'm getting now are anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 in concession again, which is something we have not seen in years. So it is truly a great time to buy a home right now.
It really is. And, interest rates are not super favorable, especially I looked the other day at the rate chart from January 1, 2020 up through today. And, it looks a little bit depressing when you see it do this and then go way up over here. Rates are not ideal, but you can still get a great deal on a home. And, I hate the date the rate, buy the house thing. But you've got to think about interest rates in terms of this is a temporary cost that can be adjusted. The price of the house almost certainly is always going to continue going up. So that is the history. 4% on average, house prices are going to go up over time. So, we dealt with a big influx in prices because of COVID. So now we're back to a steady appreciation in home value. So now's the time on that. So, all right. So somebody wants to get moving on the market. They decide to make it happen. We're off the fence. There's 4 things you got to do. First, you got to get qualified. That's a conversation with me. That's a conversation with Adam. That's a conversation about what can I actually do in the housing market? What can I afford? What can I personally manage? Because sometimes you can get approved for way more than you can actually afford on a monthly basis. You see that all the time. Yeah. And so you really got to get qualified. You got to know your numbers. The next thing you do is actually get into the market. That's when we start shopping for a house. We start looking around, seeing what's feeling good, seeing what's going to be the right area for you. Because you might start thinking you want to live in this area of town and something catches your interest over here and you like these perks and this opportunity over here. And so you may change your mind on some things. And then once we find that right house, we get under contract. And then we do several things, like we get your house inspected. It gets the complicated process of being appraised, which is different than being inspected. Adam, you want to speak to the difference between those two things real quick? Because it's confusing for a lot of people.
Yeah, again, I had that conversation today, and I actually did a real script on it. I'm going to throw that out this week. But basically, what I tell everybody is an inspection is a health checkup on the home that protects the buyer. An appraisal is a market analysis that protects the buyer and the lender, protects the buyer's investment and the lender's collateral. It's just kind of ensuring that we're all making a wise investment on the appraisal. And the inspection, of course, is to protect you against, what are the potential problems with the home? Does everything work functionally correct? Rotten wood, termite, anything like that. Those guys go, it's crazy. If you ever see one of those inspection lists, they're 50 or 60 pages long. Very detailed.
It is wild. And, it's making sure the roof has enough life left on it. Maybe you're not buying a lemon of a roof. So all that gets handled, and then usually takes about 30 days. Once we get you under contract, get everything done, on average about 30 days, then we get to the closing table, and then you get your keys, and then you're a new happy homeowner. Yeah, so it's pretty simple. That's right. Thank you, Elliott Law Firm.
That's right. Leave me and Rich a 5-star review.
Always, yes. Check out our page on Google. But yeah, so you get qualified, you get in the market, you get under contract, and you get the keys. And so that's all you got to do. It's easy. We're here to help you with that. Adam, you got any big insights or anything going on in the market that people need to know? What's happening with rates?
Yeah, you do. We're still on a downward trend. Last week, and I'm not going to bore everybody with the details, but Friday job report came out. It was actually better than expected. That impacted rates. People always go, well, why is good news bad for rates? Well, that is a situation where we're trying to get inflation down. To get inflation down, we need jobs to come down. When those don't, inflation is either level or increasing, which means money leaves the market. When money leaves the market, you have to entice people to buy those mortgage-backed securities. How do you do that? You raise interest rates. So, well, you have to give them a discount, and then you have to raise interest rates for somebody to pay it. So, but rates are still really good. I mean, we're back down. I locked something with a 5 on it last week, a government loan. So we're seeing FHA, USDA, and VA all in the low 6s, maybe in the high 5s, and we're seeing conventionals from the mid 6s up, depending on the deal. But yeah, I mean, people have really, really embraced where rates are at right now. It's been refreshing, really has. It's brought a lot of people out of the woodwork.
That's great.
What about you? What's same thing? I mean.
Yep. So listings are starting to pick up, but one of the big takeaways is that I think there were like 115 houses that were listed in the last week. 141 went under contract. So
I was going to ask.
That's just in the last 7 days. Yeah. So right now, pending homes are outpacing new listings, which, as we all learned during 2020 to 2022, that creates a compression of available houses on the market, which increases prices. So it's time. It is time. Let's make it happen now. I'm not trying. Nobody maybe some people, but we're not trying to convince anybody who isn't ready to buy a home to buy a home. But if you've been thinking about it, now is the time to strike. It is time to get in the market. So so that's it. That's a quick market update. That's and hopefully some helpful information for our listeners / viewers. I don't know how you're consuming this, but we appreciate you sticking with us, and we're looking forward to doing this more. So thanks for being a part of this community. Adam, where can everybody find you?
Hey man, I'm easy to find. You can, if you're on social media, Adam Black Mortgage, any channel you're on, 601-540-0302 is my cell phone. After hours and weekends is fine, and even text, carrier pigeon. I don't care how you reach me. But that's about it. AdamBlackMortgage.com for my website. And what about you? That's great. You can find me on Instagram at v.richprice. And, you can hit me up there or text me 601-927-2030. Give me a call. I like it when real people call me, not spam numbers. It's delightful. So, that's right. So, that's right. Good deal. Well, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. And everybody, thanks for listening, tuning in. Give us a like and follow, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Thanks so much, Rich. Yeah. Bye.